Hi, welcome to our live webinar today. My name is Laurent, I'm Head of Product Marketing at Auterion, and with me today is Pascal from Sony. Hi, Pascal.
Hi, Laurent. Thank you very much. My name is Pascal Richard, and I'm responsible for the B2B and the Pro management in Switzerland and Austria.
Awesome. Thanks for having us. Actually, we're here at the Sony studio in Zurich for this webinar. It's great to be here. It's great to have this webinar together, actually.
Welcome.
And before we're going to talk about the topic, the mapping workflows, and how Auterion and Sony collaborate to enable those workflows, let's quickly introduce both our companies at first. So let me start with Auterion. And for those who are not familiar with Auterion, I think the best and the easiest way to describe what we do and who we are is by saying we're the Android of drones. So Auterion is creating an operating system for drones, for any different kinds and shapes of drones. Can be multicopters, can be winged drones, could even be rovers. And this operating system that we're creating that basically enables or controls these drones. So it makes sure that the drones stay in the air, the rovers on the ground, that they move according to their missions, that they can do these automated maneuvers, the autonomous missions. All of this is being enabled by the operating system. But it's not limited to the actions of the drones as such. So that the operating system does not only run on the vehicle itself, but it also connects the vehicle to the cloud, like a modern operating system for a smartphone, for example, would do. So we basically enable what we usually call online first drones. So it connects the vehicles to the cloud and enables data transfer that can happen automatically and in real time while the vehicle is performing their missions. So drones as such, I mean, they prove their value for commercial or enterprise applications already. There are lots of use cases where it is dangerous for people, where it is hard for people to perform a task, and where drones come in and can do that more efficiently and safer and with less effort. So we have these use cases, and it's really proven that they work. However, if we talk to our customers, especially bigger enterprises, for example, who have big fleets with various drones doing different kinds of tasks, there are certain limitations. Because even though we have these different drones for these different tasks, usually the user experience or the skills required to use these drones are very different. So there is no real standardization or unification between those different systems. And the other thing that we all often hear them when they talk about the limitations of drones today is that they usually or often don't really well connect into their existing workflows or existing tools. And that's basically where Auterion has the vision of really enabling the usage of drones on all levels of the global economy, so that for commercial applications, drones can be used for very different and very, very widespread applications by basically providing drones that are easy to use, that are standardized, so that the different drones are actually used in a way that is like unified from the experience, and that also connect to the systems that enterprises already use today to perform those tasks, where they now start to introduce drones to make them more efficient. So that's, in a nutshell, basically what Auterion does. So Pascal, why don't you also give us an introduction to Sony, but also particularly to the digital imaging part of Sony?
Of course. May I just take
Absolutely.
the presenter? Thank you very much. Yes, so when we talk about Sony, there's a lot to say, of course. What you probably know is that at Sony we have different departments, and some of you may know us from, for example, the gaming industry or the movie industry, or even the picture industry. So we have all these different departments, but today we're going to talk about Sony electronic products and solutions. So this includes, of course, our camera system. And that's what it's going to be about tonight. A lot of you may know this product. 1979, we introduced the first Walkman, which was, of course, a huge success. But what probably some of you don't know is 2 years later, we introduced the first digital camera, which allowed to record about 50 images on a floppy disk.
That's indeed very interesting. I didn't know that. So that's, and definitely the 80s were not the time where autonomous drones were topping. So it looks like Sony and also the digital part like was there and was starting very early on then.
Yes.
So now that we heard about Auterion, now that we heard about Sony and the digital imaging part of Sony, so how does this corporation now basically, how does this help with the workflows that we're going to talk about? And basically, what we do by combining the Auterion operating system on the drones and the Sony cameras is basically we're connecting these cameras to the cloud. We're basically making sure that the tool, the camera that is being used to create the picture, then really smoothly integrates into that workflow that we need to create an end result from the mapping mission or the mapping operation. So if we look at mapping workflows very generally from a high level, they consist of 4 different steps most often. It's the preparation and planning that basically defines the area or the object that we want to inspect or to map. And then it's the execution, obviously, so to basically fly that mission that we planned, take the pictures on the drone, with the camera on the drone from the air, and then for step number 3, transfer these pictures to the cloud or to wherever we need them to then continue to create the result, which is step number 4, and which is then basically the goal of the whole workflow. So it's preparation, execution, data transfer, and then creating the result. And so if we now look at an example workflow using a drone that is powered with the Auterion software and that is equipped with a Sony camera, let's quickly look at these individual steps. Number 1, if we start with the planning phase, what you're going to use is the Auterion mission control software. This is the planning tool and the tool that you use to control any drone that is that is powered by the Auterion software. So I mentioned in the beginning that the operating system that we create is capable of controlling many different kinds of drones, multicopters, winged drones, even rovers. And the tool that you use to use any of these drones is always the same. So that's the mission control that you use to prepare and to execute the missions. And that's where we can basically create or start to standardize really the usage of these diverse fleets that big enterprises could have. But back to the mapping workflow. So it means, so mission control, you use it to prepare that survey mission. You can run the software on your laptop, so you could prepare the mission already in the office at your desk, even before going out to the field. Or you could also do it while you're in the field on the controller, or you can prepare it on the laptop and then load it in the field on the controller. So it's really flexible in how you use it, and again, it's unified for any solution that you use. For this workflow, when it comes to execution, we're here looking at the Astro drone. Astro is from Freefly Systems. It's an American drone manufacturer. They engineered and they manufactured these drones in the US. So you can also see one here, back here on the table. It's a quadcopter. Freefly has been in the industry for many years already. They are very experienced also with bigger drones that can carry heavier payloads. They're known for their ruggedized and very thoroughly tested systems. So that's basically the perfect tool that you need in a commercial or industrial application. So this particular drone, as I said, it's a quadcopter. It's foldable, that you can fold in the arms and the legs, remove the gimbal, so you can even pack it in a rucksack. So you can really have a small and portable system. It comes with smart batteries. And in the mapping configuration, as you see it here, it is equipped with the Sony Alpha 7R Mark IV camera, a high-resolution camera from Sony that really delivers very high-quality pictures for mapping missions. Now, what you cannot see on the drone, as it is here, is that inside the drone, there's a Skynode. And Skynode is a hardware. It's like an embedded avionics module that you can also see here in an enclosed version. And what's in here is, on the one hand, it's the flight controller. That's the part of the drone that basically controls the drone as such, how it moves, how it behaves, how it follows the autonomous missions. But there is also an onboard computer in here, or a mission computer. And that mission computer is then capable of not only controlling the drones, but for example, as I said, to establish a connection to the cloud, and more importantly also, to control the camera the camera that we integrated. And with integration, camera integration, we basically don't only mean that you're able to trigger a camera. It's really a deep integration that we're doing here. So you can see the live feed in the mission control software. You can take pictures, you can take videos, but you can also change a lot of settings directly in the GUI. And that's basically thanks to the software that's running here on the Skynode. So it's the flight control, it's the mission computer, and as I mentioned, there's also the connectivity built in here. So you have 4G, you have Wi-Fi, you have Bluetooth. And of course, if it is built into a product, it wouldn't come like in this enclosed, nice orange box, but like it's the interior, in the PCBs or the boards inside that would directly go into the design so that a smooth and nice product exists. So that's how we enable this drone with our software, and that's how we also connect it to the cloud. I've mentioned that before, and the connection to the cloud then basically brings that drone online and connects it to the Auterion suite. The Auterion suite is that part of the Auterion software that runs in the cloud, and that basically is the other end of the connection and receives the data directly from the drone. That data can be, as we see here on the picture, the pictures that the camera takes. But it's not only that. It's also the whole data that basically runs on the systems from the sensors and the telemetry that is automatically transmitted in real time. So all the flight logs that then can be analyzed so that you can see if there are any issues or even upcoming issues, because we're also doing predictive maintenance with all the data that is directly transferred to the cloud. So it's not just to receive image data, it's really also to basically have automatic maintenance with the vehicle. And it's more than that, it's also the fleet management. So you have all your vehicles that are powered with the Auterion software in the suite. And you can also track all your assets in it, so your batteries, your controllers, your propellers, etc. Everything that you need to manage in your drone program. Also the pilots that use the drones, and a complete log of which operator used what drone, at what time, at which location. So it's really kind of a program management tool for your drone operation. But coming back now to the workflows that we mentioned and to the pictures that can be transferred to the cloud. Those pictures in that case, I touched or mentioned it before, are taken by this Sony camera that is part of this mapping kit for the Astro. It's the Sony Alpha 7R Mark IV. And so Pascal, why don't you tell us a little bit more about the details of that specific camera, but maybe not only this one, but also the other cameras from the Sony lineup.
Thank you. Yes, of course, I'll do that. So if we talk about our system, we have different things I'd like to touch upon. The first thing is about our technology, but it's also about the solution we deliver, and of course at the end you will have my contact if you have any further questions. So looking into the technology, we have 5 fundamentals when it comes to our digital imaging. The first one is all about speed. So we want to have fast products. The second one is about our battery, which is very important when you are flying, for example, autonomy with a drone. But also, as we are famous for, is our compactness and the lightness of our products. And one thing that is very important also are lenses, which we will see later, and the total image quality, of course, has to be safe. So first thing, when it comes to speed, there is one very important element in the camera. That's the sensor. And the sensor has to deliver the speed because you want to take a certain speed of image, and the system has to withdraw the data from the sensor very quickly. Otherwise, you will have some different issues. So what we've done here is that we introduced the stacked image sensor, which allows to withdraw the data very quickly from the sensor. The second thing that is very important is the battery. So we were able to increase the battery life within the last few years. On one side, it's the battery itself that is much more performing than before, but on the other side, it's also the consumption of the camera, which get less and less. The next step is, of course, our lineup. We have, let's say, 3 different lineups. The first one is the lineup of the full frame cameras. I would start with the 7C, which is the lightest, smallest full-frame camera that has interchangeable lenses. This, of course, makes it interesting for drone applications. The second one, which Laurent touched about, was the 7R Mark IV, and this one has 61 megapixel, meaning that you can really have a large details on your image. Then we have the 7S Mark III, which is very famous for the video capabilities, especially with low light. So meaning if you are flying, for example, in the drones with very few lights, you will be able to have excellent image quality, even with high ISO. The next two cameras are very fast cameras. So the A9 Mark II with 24 megapixel and the flagship, the A1, which has 50 megapixel and is even capable to do 30 frames a second. And our latest camera, the 7 Mark IV, which is very diverse, which you can really use in different applications with 33 megapixel. But we also have, of course, our APS-C cameras, like the 6100 I have here, the latest 6.4 and the 6600 megapixel. Of course, these cameras are very interesting, again, because they are compact, they are lightweighted, but also when it comes to price. And it wouldn't be our full lineup if I wouldn't touch about the compact cameras we have. So we have, for example, one camera that is the RX1R Mark II, which has 42 million pixel and a fixed lens of 35 millimeters. But then the next generation is also the ZV-E10, which allows also to put some interchangeable lenses on APS-C camera, which is very compact. And this one, by the way, is very great for video, but also cameras like the RX100 Mark VII, which has a great capability when it comes to zooming. So it goes from 24 to 200 millimeters. So this full lineup is very great because you can use them in every kind of application you need. As I said, one thing that is very important for us, and not only for us, it's important when you want to introduce these kind of cameras in different various systems, is the quality of the lenses. So here again, one thing that is important is that we are using one mount. One mount is the E-mount, meaning that you can use these lenses for full-frame cameras, APS-C cameras, but also our Cine line. That's a great topic when it comes to investment, which we will touch upon later. The other thing is that we have more than 60 lenses at the moment for the E-mount system. Again, that would mean that you can use it for whatever application you want. The next thing that is important is also the quality of the lens. On one hand, we have the autofocus speed. So here we introduced the new system, XDR linear motor system, which is very fast and precise and silent, by the way. The next topic is our nanotechnology. This helps us to have the quality of the lens from the middle, from the center of the lens up to the corners, and also the spherical lens that has very straight lines and that again shows the quality. So if you look at the so-called MTF charts, when you compare it to our competitors, you will see that we have the highest quality that you can wish. I don't want to say too much about the image quality because we have so much awards for our products, for the cameras, for the lenses, and so on. So just check the internet, you will see I don't have to say so much about the image quality. But here comes the thing that these cameras can be used in various applications. It really goes from road safety to media and so on. Let's talk about the solution. So we've seen the product, lens, and the camera, but one thing that is very important, of course, is how can we interact with the products? And this is where we introduce the SDK, the Software Development Kit. The Software Development Kit is used in our system. And I would like to come back for a second to Laurent. Could you please explain us how easy it was to introduce the SDK in your environment, and if it's possible also to use other products like we have here, the A1 and A7 Mark II?
Absolutely, yes. So as I mentioned, FreeFly decided for this configuration to go with the 7R4. Of course, because of the high resolution that is needed for mapping, it makes total sense. So we collaborated here on the integration and integrated this particular camera with our Skynode. So basically, the end result is then that you can connect this camera to the Skynode and it immediately works. And immediately works means, again, the integration is there is live video feed. There's the capability of taking pictures and videos, downloading them, but also to change all these settings. And this is thanks to the SDK. Because we can access the SDK, we can access all these functions and change the settings even when we're in the air. And as I mentioned, it's the 7R4 that we use here today on this particular solution, but because the other cameras basically support the exact same SDK, it means that they become compatible as well. So that there is then this choice that you talked about also for people integrating cameras using Skynode and the Auterion software. So for us, that means that people like FreeFly, who use our software for their solutions, they are offered basically with this lineup of cameras that they can use in their solutions, so that they can use particular cameras for particular applications that they can offer to end users. And for the end users, it means that there's a lot of flexibility in using these products for different applications.
So once you implemented the SDK for one camera, it makes it quite easy to implement the other ones, right?
Absolutely, because it's the identical SDK, it's basically the integration is identical for all the cameras.
Okay.
And that's what's also makes it scalable, basically. The work that we've done together with your engineers to make it work on one camera can now be copy-pasted, basically, for all the other cameras.
Okay, so means I can switch one camera to the next one, which makes it more or less a plug-and-play solution.
Absolutely, that's what it means.
Okay, fantastic. So where can you get this SDK? You can go on our European Business Solution website, which you see here, the Sony EU Business Solution website. The latest SDK version is the 1.05, meaning that we are always introducing new versions. So this system is continuously evoluting with our system. This SDK also allows you to use it in several industries. So here's one example that's a company called OrbitView, which are providing a solution to do some automatic product photography. But not only this, another example, for example, is the Ghoul, which have this automatic vehicle inspection system, meaning that they can take picture of different vehicles and to check if there is any issue with the exterior, for example, of the car. Another solution that you can use, of course, is also the multiple triggering of cameras, which is great when you do, for example, matrix shots. So, but we've seen the product, we've seen the SDK, but of course, if you invest within a company like Sony, you would like to see more. And one thing we've touched upon was the quality. The next thing is, of course, the trust. And the trust is very important. Sony is one of the 10th most innovative company worldwide. This was said by Boston Consulting Group. At the same time, we are a healthy company. So if you look at our stock exchange within the last 3 years, you will see that Sony is really using the money well, let's say. The next thing is the investment. So when you decide to choose a company or another, it's of course, there are several things you have to take in account. I told you about the one mount system. So if you decide to use the Sony products, you can invest in lenses and you will be sure that you will use these lenses for several products. The other thing is also the accessories. If I look, for example, at the batteries, you can use the same battery for the A1, the 7S III, or the 7R Mark IV. So you don't need to invest each time when you have another cameras within other accessories. The same for the memory card. You can use the same memory card in all these cameras. That's certainly something that is interesting when it comes to cost. But also when you look at our development system, when we get a new camera on the market, we don't take out the model before, we keep it in the market. So it means that you have time to introduce the new camera in your system before we take the other one out of the market. We have seen the flexibility about the SDK, so you can really use it in different systems. But what is certainly important is also the support. So there are a lot of people like me all over the world that you can get in contact with. We have people in France, in the US, in Asia, and so on. So whenever you have a project that is interesting, where you think you may use some cameras, you can always get in touch with me or with my colleagues. But we also have an extended solution support that we can deliver. And these are colleagues from our department. They're called ISS. And they can help us when it really gets deep into the solution development.
And the same is also true for the SDK. So on our side, when we were using the SDK, we basically collaborated with your engineers on your support to basically make that integration happening.
That's great.
So we've seen the part of where Auterion enables the drones with the software. We saw a lot of the flexibility on the camera side. Now let's come back to where we started and let's look at the mapping workflows and one example of a workflow and how all these individual pieces now come together and how that looks like. So for that particular mission that we flew last week, the planning, we did it directly in the field on the controller. I mentioned it before, we could have done it on a laptop as well. In the field, the preparation here also included using a ground GPS, a base station. This is something that you can use to increase the accuracy of the geotagging of the images. So something that I haven't mentioned before, all the pictures that the Astro is taking with the Sony camera, they're geotagged on the Skynode before they're delivered to the cloud. So the images that you take off the vehicle are already geotagged, but you can of course also improve the accuracy using these base stations. So we see Astro here taking off in the Swiss mountains and taking these pictures of the rooftop that we mapped here. And while the vehicle is in the air, if you have the 4G connection that I mentioned before, you can already transmit this data on the fly basically to somebody who is even remote. So somebody in an office that then can look at the Auterion suite in the cloud and look at these images immediately when they are uploaded. And then also download them obviously from there and use them in the tools that are needed to create the end result. So this example that we see here uses side scan from Esri to then stitch these high quality images together and create this end result. So this is a very short summary that brings basically all these steps that we mentioned before together, and that's enabled by this collaboration that we have between Sony and Auterion. And I think for me, the main takeaway here is really when we look at the workflow, it's about flexibility and it's about efficiency. And it's at that basically on every level. So we saw the flexibility on the camera side, the different cameras that we can use, and they all integrate into the same workflow. So the experience is always the same. And the same on how you control the drone, the software. It's really standardized. It makes it more efficient with the connectivity, with the transmission of the data, and it really gives you choice and flexibility for the workflows that you need to get your tasks done using the drone. Pascal, thank you very much for having us again. It was great to be on that webinar with you.
I thank you, and I learned a lot once again.
Yeah, me too, about the first digital camera in the 80s. So we're going to send out, after the event, we're going to send you a message with all the details if you want to get in touch, have further questions. But then there's also a way of reaching out directly, right, Pascal?
Yes, so if you have any project or any interest in our SDK, our cameras, lenses, whatever, you can get in touch with me, particularly here, with my email address, pascal.richard@sony.com, or you can go on our European website where you will find a contact form, or you can also follow me on LinkedIn and you will always have the latest information.
Okay, thank you all very much for tuning in tonight, for watching the webinar.
Thank you.
And we all wish you a nice rest of the day.
Thank you and good night.